Hey, it's MK, and I am here with another Mixed Media Mayhem recipe for you guys. I am also playing along with 31 Days of Cut Files with Janet and MK, and I am on week 3, which is the documenting. And for this, we have this shutter closure in a heart shape. I thought it was kind of cool. For my metal part of the recipe, I've got these Tim Holtz gears. And then for my chipboard part, I have this brick piece and then a couple other little chipboard pieces, a wind up key, things like that. And then for my rub-ons, I have these Stitching Essentials by 49 and Market. I have 3 photos that I want to play with, as well as some scraps from various projects previous that I've done months ahead, some close to my heart, some basic gray. And then new to me, I have Mr. Fix-It from Minte. I love this background paper, you guys. So this is Minte's last year grunge paper. It was called Mr. Fix-It. I just barely got it, so I don't know how I missed it. But super glad that it was still available and I was able to get my hands on it. And then they have another one of these black denim pieces that is, instead of just the denim piece with a little distress inside, it's actually the pocket. So I'm going to use that to back my cut file. First, I'm going to go and map my photos and trim them down. And I cut one of my photos completely in half because my daughter and my son were both far enough away that I could make it look like it was 2 different photos. And I'm going to put my son's picture because he's so small and I don't really need all that stuff around him because it's also in the exact same picture of my husband and my youngest son. This is my oldest son that I'm cutting out now. But it was almost the exact same picture with just 2 different people in the picture. So I thought, oh, I'll just frame my oldest boy in here taking pictures. This was the first year that him and my daughter actually got to take cameras with them on one of the trips. And this was 2021, by the way. And so they just went camera crazy and trying to take pictures and whatnot of all the different things. I loved all the different settings that they were playing with. They did close-ups, they did zoom-ins, they did different angles. I mean, just all sorts of different unique things trying to play with their cameras. And I thought it was pretty cool. My other 2 boys also have cameras, and I don't really know what the purpose of that was, but they bought cameras several years before my other 2 ended up with their cameras. But I think secretly they really wanted camcorders. So that way they could like do slow-mos of them shooting things and throwing, not throwing, but shooting their bows, and they can watch their arrow go in slow motion and things like that. And when they realized that their cameras, even though they do the video recording, it wasn't like GoPro quality type of stuff and whatnot. So anyways, they quickly lost interest in the playings of with their pictures and stuff. They definitely aren't as interested in taking photos as my oldest and youngest are. My oldest son and my youngest daughter, not my oldest. So anyways, I decided to take out everything that was in my little baggie, and I am very surprised with how much stuff actually comes out of those bags, you guys. Surprised or embarrassed, one of the 2, right? But I am very surprised with how much is in there, and they're all leftovers from previous projects, from last year's projects, the beginning of this year's projects, things like that. So, and I just stuff them in a baggie, knowing that they go in the same category, and eventually they will be all used up. So I'm going to go ahead, and I really didn't like the fact that I left my cut file white. So I'm just going to take whatever ink was left on my gray sponge, which I think was pumice stone, to be honest, and I'm going to go ahead and ink up the whole thing. And I don't really mind that I'm inking up the the background paper. I'm just trying to stay away from my son's photo because I don't want the ink to get on the photo. And then I'm going to rub off the distress ink. I believe it was an oxide, and that's why it ended up doing what it did. And I like the way that this is looking. I like how distressed all of a sudden it looks. I'm going to go ahead and put a little block on my son's picture and go ahead and just use some water to give it a little bit more of a distressed look. And, this is all afterthought. I had no clue honestly what I was doing. I'm going to take some walnut stain now, add my little block back again, and go ahead and distress it a little bit more using some walnut stain and some my splatter brush and whatnot. And then with my walnut stain, I'm going to try to go and give some shadows, so that way it really looks like there's some movement going on. And I'm just using the tip of my brush and brushing one of the edges. That way it looks three-dimensional, like they are cascading into themselves when the shutter does open as far as the camera goes. So I thought these were good photos. Now this is a picture of me and, well, not me, but my family at the museum in Ely, Nevada. There's I think it's not White Pine County. I don't know if it's called the Ely. Oh, I have a bug that's bothering me. Do you guys see that? How strange. That is so crazy. I am so sorry. I got squirreled by a bug. But this is the museum in Ely, Nevada, and it's like a train museum where you go in and you kind of learn about the history of the mines, which, because of the mines, is the reason why the trains came in, because they needed to move product fast, right? Not just the ore that was being produced, but they needed to move people from town to town, from location to location. They needed to move a lot of supplies. And when it comes to mines, all the supplies are super heavy, super robust and stocky, and all the things that has to do with the mines. And so, of course, train transportation is the best way to do it. And so basically the town of Ely, became a huge major hub for the trains, right? And that's where the train station came in play, which is now a living museum. So there's two different museums in Ely, Nevada. This one here is the history of Ely and surrounding areas, really close, because obviously the mine isn't directly in Ely, Nevada. They do still have an active mine that where a lot of the people that live in Nevada work at this mine. Did I say that right? I don't remember. But a lot of people that live in this town still work at that mine, or in the museum, or at the Living Train Museum, or you know what I mean. They just they're very history oriented, and I absolutely love it. So anyways, there's a lot of cool things to go see at this mine, and especially in their yard. So even though the inside had a bunch of really cool things, like most museums do, they have a bunch of old machinery, like the switchboard that I had to take a picture of. I love switchboards because that definitely reminds me of my childhood growing up on a party line out in Spring Creek before we actually had our own phone lines. We had to call the operator, and if the line was busy because your neighbor was talking to somebody, you could either join their conversation, that's why it's called a party line, or you could wait till they were done and you got to pick up the phone and use it at your own time. And then, of course, it went into everything was long distance because of how far away Spring Creek was from Elko at the time. I mean, just the way that the phones have changed in my neighborhood. It's just crazy. I can't believe that I grew up through that era, and it just reminds me of some good memories, right? So I always take pictures of switchboards every time I go to a museum and I see one, just because of that, just because of the fact that, granted, I never went to a switchboard. My aunt used to work with one or for the phone company back in the day when they had switchboards, but it's just something that we had to do. We had to go through the operator to make those phone calls at the very early years of Spring Creek. It's not like, last year or anything like that, but at the very, very early years. Excuse me. And so anyways, that was one of the reasons why I had to take pictures of switchboards. And then, of course, everything else is, the history of the town. And I love going to smaller museums like this because they're not natural history museums. They're not historic museums. They're histories of towns. And my mom has a museum in Fallon, Nevada. Not my mom personally, but Fallon, Nevada, where my mom lives. There's a cute little museum too. And again, you get to learn the history of said town. I've been to the museum at Rawlins, Nevada. Again, the history of Rawlins, Nevada. Or I'm sorry, not Nevada, Wyoming. The same with Elko. If you go into the Elko Museum, you get the history of Elko, and now the history of Ely. And I'm honestly just now noticing this. I've never noticed it before in all of the other museums that we have visited, because normally we visit the same museums over and over again. It's not it's not like we try to go and see a different museum all the time. We love going to all the museums because there's always somewhere where we've missed or wasn't able to get to that area and actually walk through and visit some specific areas of the museum, because they're all so big. And with us liking to read every little thing, it takes us a long time to go through a museum. So we try to spread it out, and today we're going to go to the museum and we're going to start in this area because we've already been through this area. So, and of course, if we want to revisit an area, we do that as well. All right, so I thought I would give a little bit of movement to my die cut by adding some gears, making it look again like it's got like it is a shutter closing and opening. And so I added a few little gears. Some of them are metallic, or the metal pieces. Some of them are acrylic pieces. I do have to remember to incorporate metal, because that is part of my Mixed Media Mayhem recipe. And then of course I haven't done rub-ons yet. And my chipboard piece is going to just be that little brick wall that I'm going to add. I thought I had a little bit more. I also have the word Relic. That is also a chipboard word piece. So yay, I used 2 chipboard pieces. I am loving these recipes that aren't just wet media, right? It's not always just watercolor or texture paste and things like that. I'm loving this because then it's making me think of using pieces that I have extra of, or a scrap of, or something like that. And I'm really using my supplies when a recipe calls for something like that, kind of like a grab 5, right? That's what this one reminds me of. But you're mixing your media, you're mixing your metal with your chipboard and your rub-ons and whatnot. And so I just think that that's pretty cool. I'm going to add my favoriteest twine in the whole wide world to this uber super cute acrylic hook, just to give my my light bulb a hanging mechanism. I thought that was pretty cool. I love the old style of a light bulb. The light bulb was from, I think, Life Stories Minte collection, and I just fussy cut it out of all of their cut aparts, right? Where you have to fussy cut out their images. So I think that's where that came from. Plus, it was a good match to, of course, the rest of the Minte paper. I'm going to go ahead and add my my shuttered heart right here. Add a little bit of this diamond plate. Now, I can't remember what that diamond plate was from. Ooh, I don't remember if it was from the other side of that denim paper. I think it is. If I'm being honest, I think it is. And then I'm adding another chipboard piece, which is a wind-up key to, again, add movement to my shutter heart, so that way it looks like I'm unwinding it and featuring my sun. Not that this layout is about my son, but I definitely wanted to separate the 2 photos because of the fact that, the display case is seen in both pictures, and I didn't think it was necessary. I also have this uber old paper clip from 49 and Market as well that is just this cute little envelope with a heart on it, and I had a punched out tag. The punch is actually from Stampin' Up! A while back, and here I'm going to start adding some rub-ons. Now, I do have to say that when I first started adding the rub-ons, I thought I was done. I thought, I can call this good. It's not a big deal. Once I add these on, but then I realized that I just feel like something's missing, and I was going to add a little bit more to this, But first I'm going to add these rub-ons. And then I have these little epoxy dots that are also from 49 and Market. And I'm going to go ahead and add a few of those. Not as many as I was hoping to add. But when I finally got around to finding little places to tuck them in, they just really didn't work. So I only end up adding 2, which I'm okay with. I do believe I end up using them somewhere else on another layout because I don't have any left over. Okay, so I'm looking for some brads, so that way I can add a few brads into these acrylic corner pieces that I have. But I'm searching for specific colors, and I wanted to find something that would stand out on the acrylic. I didn't want them to match the acrylic. So I'm going to find something that stands out, and I found a couple little brass pieces. And then what I did was I went ahead and I bent the prongs behind the acrylic, and now I'm just using my glue dots to hold them into place. And then I'm also going to use those same glue dots to apply my piece to the page. And then I'm just going to smush the brads a little flatter using my scissors, something metallic that I could apply a lot of pressure to without it damaging, the brads or anything else. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with my other corner piece that I have and add it to the other photo. Again, the photo is meant to look like it's all one long photo, like a a panoramic photo. Even though some of the display case is repeated, I like the fact that you can see, my youngest son with my husband and then my youngest daughter right there. Because that's how I basically took the photo, right? I ended up taking the photo with, first here and then over here with the other 2 because they weren't close enough for me to get a long range photo. Okay, so here's where I decided I'm not quite done with the rub-ons. I decided that I was going to add these little teeny tiny stitching rub-ons to my my shutter piece, and I do love how this ended up looking. I don't know. I'm glad that this idea came to me. Plus, I'm glad that I was able to actually use more of the rub-ons instead of just the 2 that I did use, which I end up liking those as well. I love a good stitching rub-on, you guys. It's just so fun to see that little amount of stitching and then realize that it's not real. And 49 and Market so far has been the best little stitching rub-ons that I have seen based off of the fact that they look so real. They're so good at, giving us the illusion of a lot of work. All right, I'm going to finish off this rub-on on my little shutter and call it good. I love how this looks, you guys. I really, really do. Glad that I took the time to do it. And unfortunately, I forgot to pan out and show you guys the rest of the layout. I only show you guys the heart. So I do have lots of close-ups for you guys, so you guys can take a look at the rest of the layout coming up. Please be sure to check out the links that I have down below. I have a link for the playlist for Mixed Media Mayhem. I also have a link for the Facebook group if you guys are not joining us over there to go see what everyone else is doing with our recipes. I also have a link for 31 Days Facebook group. If you guys are not following us over there, go check it out. Janet and I have been trying to do a live every day with a larger version of the original cut files. So that's been fun and challenging as well. Also, too, we have, I have I don't know. Yeah. Oh, don't forget to check out Janet Fritz's channel, who is Galaxy Girl Creations. She is not only playing along with me with 31 Days of Cut Files every day, but also with Mixed Media Mayhem every Friday. All right, you guys, thanks again, and I will check you guys all later. Bye.